Sales Queens Claim Your Career Crown podcast. I'm your host, Lynn, the Strategic Sales Queen, and today I'm joined by our very special guest, Maureen Curis. And today we are going to be talking about does talking about dying scare you to death? How to talk anyway. And, no doubt about it. End of life conversations are the elephant in your family room and can be challenging. So I would love to invite you, if you have a love the episode, the show, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. We'd very much appreciate it. And I want to tell you about our wonderful guest, Maureen. So after 35 years as a registered nurse, Maureen is no stranger to end of life issues. She has seen firsthand the devastation that can occur when families don't have difficult discussions with family members. Maureen's strength lies in her ability to help families calmly approach topics that are difficult to discuss. Her expertise in reducing drama, trauma, and chaos has helped individuals get their affairs in order while getting their families in alignment. Maureen created Radiant Morning to be an advocate for end of life planning. And today, families hire Maureen to protect and empower them through facilitated, I should say, discussions, planning, and preparation for end of life transitions. Her advocacy provides safety, clarity, hope, and guidance to her clients. And Maureen, I'm so thrilled to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Lynn. I just love talking about this subject and trying to take the fear out of it.
Well, and that is so important. And I guess I'm going to step back and get some backstory from you about what inspired you to get started down this path after being an RN for so many years.
Well, you know, uh, when you say after being an RN, my first job as a nurse was on an oncology unit. And I thought, oh my gosh, get me out of here as fast as I can because I didn't come from a family that talked about death and dying. We stuffed our grief. We didn't share anything, we just held it all in. And so I was thrown into this environment that truly scared me to death. I wanted no part of it, but it was the job I could get at the time. But what I found out through this journey there was that it wasn't as scary as I thought, and it actually there was a chance to really have meaningful conversations and say what needed to be said, and that it could be very peaceful. And especially when conversations had been had in advance. I was also, through many, many years in oncology, bone marrow transplant, hospice, I was also an ICU nurse for many years. And the difference there was that usually there was a major event, an accident, a major
Yeah.
heart attack, a stroke, surgery that had issues. So these were the unexpected events of life. Cancer, you're given time to get your affairs in order. Um, but these times there weren't those times.
Yeah.
There wasn't time. No one had ever expected it. And there was one very profound moment that just took me on this path. This 63-year-old woman that had been out with had played tennis in the morning, took her mom to the doctors, her 85-year-old mother, and had a heart attack when she was driving her mom home, ended up in the ICU. It was a very complicated experience for her family, for her, and for her mother. And at that time, I found out there was something called advanced directives. They were relatively new. It was in the mid
Mhm.
90s. And, but I learned that if there was this thing called the power of attorney for healthcare, and if it was filled out, there could be that one person that makes the decisions on someone's behalf if these what if moments in life occur.
Right.
And I became a big advocate, and I was shouting it to all my friends, "Go to the office supply store, it's $45 and you've gotta get this done." So over the next 30 years, I was always still shouting that to my friends. And when I left, my last nursing job, a number of my friends said, "You've got to start a business around this. You've got to get people to get their paperwork in order and make their decisions and have, that person chosen or the backup, and
Yeah.
so that they can have that roadmap if anything happens to them." And that's how I stepped into this. It was never really my intent, but it's something that I'm passionate about.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And you're right. Um, this is a really important piece and people miss it. And I'm not really sure why. I mean, I think there's some kind of, I think people fear death. They don't want to talk about it. But that sort of leads us in, from that perspective. But why families have such a difficult time even getting this conversation started?
Well, let's face it, it's not fun. Who wants to talk about death when we're busy living, really?
Yeah.
But the one thing that I found is that by doing this, it helps you truly live life fully, knowing that,
Yeah.
okay, I've got my plan in order if anything happens to me. I've got my person and a backup person, and I've talked to everyone. But, uh, it's very hard for some families, like my mom at 89, I love her dearly, she doesn't like to talk about any of this stuff and still doesn't, and I've asked her, "So who do you know that's lived forever, mom?" No one. There's no one she knows. In fact, at 89, most of her, contemporaries, have predeceased her, but still she won't talk about this. So it's hard. It's hard. And there's so many ways to get it started that are non-threatening.
Yeah.
Um, I always say to people, use a life event. If like today, who was it? I want to say Robert De Niro, but it wasn't Robert De Niro. It was Robert. Oh, he was 95, an actor that just died today. And how,
Oh,
or Jesse Jackson, um, the civil rights movement
yeah.
um, figurehead. He just died today, also. And, take these moments when someone from their era has died and, say, gosh, or if there was a traumatic death because of it, you know, um, uh,
Yeah.
Catherine O'Hara just died sort of unexpectedly, that
Oh,
actress from
yeah.
um,
She's married to Michael
Schitt's
Douglas.
Creek and, Home Alone and everything, and gosh, mom, say to your loved one, "Gosh, I just read that in the last month or so, Catherine O'Hara died, Robert, whatever his name was, I can't
Maybe it was
remember."
Redford, Robert Redford? I don't know.
No, well, Robert
No.
Redford died too, but, it got me thinking,
They
I wanna
well,
make
they
sure
all will. Everybody does die.
Oh, no. I wanna make sure, like, I can honor your wishes. Gosh, Catherine O'Hara was only 71, and, what would you want? Would you be willing to speak to me? And we could talk about what you would want if something
Yeah.
happened to you. And that's just a great icebreaker. Or to say, gosh, dad, friend's dad, my friend at work, his dad just had a major heart attack and he's on life support.
Oh,
Would you be willing to, like, maybe go play a round of golf and go out for a beer? And so maybe we could talk about this, like, what if this happened to you or to me? Maybe we could figure out a plan on what to do if something unexpected like this happens. It's easy things like that, easy and hard.
yeah. No, I totally think that those types of they are presenting opportunities to ease into the conversation and to get it started. And sometimes there are other things, like, I mean, I guess I sort of thought about it, like, well, what's going to happen to my cat? Who's going to take care of my cat? I want to make sure that my cat's taken care of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people don't think about that, and you can make plans about that too. And in fact, I just ran across this where, my friend's mother has this talking about a cat. It's a cat, and her mom died, but none of them want the cat, and none of them can really
Oh,
take care of it. My friend is, allergic to cats.
oh,
She has 2 kids that are allergic to cats, and so the mom didn't make any plans, and now there's this cat that they can't figure out what to do with because her brother doesn't want it at all. And so, to make having these conversations, what happens? What would you want done with the cat? Who would you want this cat to go
Yeah.
to, because you don't want your cat sent to, you know, a cat
Shelter. Yeah.
rescue or something, be adopted out to strangers. You wanna make sure your cat's loved and cared for.
Yeah.
That's a really good
Absolutely.
point.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a key thing.
Yeah.
So, when you start this conversation and as you go through it, how do you do it? I mean, is there like a process you follow? How does that all sort of fall into place?
Well, if I'm working with someone, we start the conversation, we go through values, first of all. Really, we live and die by the values we hold dear. So I think we start by looking at what are our values, and those do change over time too. And that's why they should be this work is never one and done. It is
Yeah.
fluid. It's something that should be addressed at different points of life. But really, what are your values, and what would you want? How would you want to live in certain situations? Then we explore what's your experience with deaths, because so many of us have not had. We might know someone that died, or maybe a grandparent, but the average 65-year-old really hasn't seen a dead body, when you think about it. So, it's scary. It's scary to think about someone dying and what to do and all of that. So, there's an exercise I take people through about it's pretty simple. What's your experience with death? When did you experience your first death? How did it make you feel? What were the emotions, which is part of the feeling? And how do you cope with that now? And, my first death was my grandfather. I was in 2nd grade. I loved him. He was just, this wonderful person in my life. And I didn't really, I knew he was sick, but didn't really understand dying, and no one explained it to me. And he died. Um, but I didn't really comprehend that at 2nd grade, and so we're Catholic, so we went to the big old Catholic funeral, and it was an open casket funeral. No one prepared us. All my little cousins were in the back of the church with our parents up front. No one had talked about it. Next thing you know, we're in a line going by a casket, looking in and seeing this guy that sort of looked like our grandfather, but he was all made up. And I can still picture that to this day, and it scared me because I wasn't prepared. So I had a lot of fear of death because it seemed scary to me. And how did I cope with experiences with death by